The yellery wastes had no mercy for the unprepared. That was the first thing Alpha Kale Vera had taught every pup in his pack. The second thing he taught them was simpler and older, carved into the bones of their species long before language existed to name it: know your predators. Kale knew all of them. The sandstalker, the ridgewraith, the deep burrow crov. He could identify a threat by the shadow it cast, by the pressure shift in the air, by the particular silence that descended when something at the top of a food chain decided it was hungry. He had never, in 14 years of leading his pack across this continent, been wrong. Until her. She appeared at the eastern ridge at dusk, the worst possible time, when shadows stretched and the crov began to surface. Kale's second, Dara, spotted her first through the long-range scope and made a sound that Kale had never heard from her before. Something between confusion and alarm. Alpha. There's a human. Alone? Alone. Kale took the scope. He looked for a long time without speaking. The human was female. Medium height, lean in the way predators were lean, not starved, but efficient. No powered armor, which was strange for this region. No visible exoskeleton. No atmospheric shield humming around her body. She wore what appeared to be layered fabric, dark, treated against heat, and carried a single long-range rifle slung across her back as casually as a walking stick. She was moving through open ground. Open ground. In the wastes. At dusk. She doesn't know what she's walking into, Dara said. Kale lowered the scope. Something was wrong with that assessment, but he couldn't locate exactly what. Keep watching her. The crov came up from the sand 40 meters to her left. A juvenile, only 4 meters long, still pale from its last molting. Fast, though. Fast enough that Kale's pack members reflexively reached for their weapons. The human didn't reach for anything. She stopped walking. That was all. She simply stopped, turned her head, and looked at the crov. The crov looked back. 3 seconds passed. 5. 8. The crov went back into the sand. What? Said Dara, very quietly. Kale had no answer. He had seen crov juveniles driven off by loud noises, by bright lights, by the chemical repellents that most travelers spent significant currency to obtain. He had never seen one choose to leave. Not for a single unarmed figure standing still in open ground. The human continued walking. By the time she reached the pack's camp perimeter, Kale had made a decision that he would later describe to other alphas as tactically sound and that his pups would forever describe as the time father panicked and called a full assembly for one human woman. 18 members of the Vera pack stood at the perimeter. Armed. In formation. Watching her approach with the kind of focused attention usually reserved for ridgewraith sightings. She stopped 10 meters out. Looked at them with dark, unhurried eyes. Then she looked past them, scanning the camp the way a person scans a room when they're deciding whether to stay. Ranger Mara Ellison, she said. Her voice was flat and professional. I'm going to need water and approximately 6 hours of your ground space. I'll be gone before morning. You crossed the open wastes, Kale said. Alone. At dusk. Yes. Without armor. Yes. The crov. Left. She met his eyes for the first time. They do that. There was something in the way she said it. Not boastful. Not mysterious. Just factual, in the tone of someone describing weather patterns or geological features, things that simply were, requiring no further explanation. Kale found, to his deep professional embarrassment, that he stepped aside to let her in. She didn't speak much during the 6 hours. She drank water, cleaned her rifle with the methodical patience of someone who had done it 10,000 times, and reviewed something on a battered data tablet that she angled away from curious eyes. But the pack watched her. They couldn't seem to help it. His youngest pup, Sovi, finally asked what no adult had managed to phrase. Why did the crov leave? Mara Ellison looked up from her tablet. She considered the question seriously, which Kale noted, most people dismissed young ones. What do you know about predator hierarchies? She asked. Recognition signals, Sophie said immediately, eager. Every predator broadcasts scent, posture, micromovement. It tells other predators where you rank. Good. Mara set down the tablet. Humans evolved wrong for this planet. No natural armor. Poor olfactory range. We don't fit neatly into your signal systems. She paused. But we were apex predators on our own world for 200,000 years before we had writing, agriculture, or cities. That's a very long time to practice broadcasting. Sophie blinked. Broadcasting what? That we're dangerous. She said it the way she said everything, level, without performance. Not threatening. Dangerous. There's a difference. Threatening is loud. Dangerous is quiet. The Krav reads signals the same way every predator does. And the signal it read from me was, she stopped. Seemed to search for simpler words. Not prey. Silence around the fire. How? Kale asked. He hadn't meant to speak. The word came out before he could consider it. Mara looked at him. In the firelight her eyes were darker. Something moved behind them that he couldn't name, not cruelty, not warmth exactly. Something older than both. We learned to move like we belong everywhere, she said. When your species is soft, slow, and mostly blind in the dark, you either die, or you convince everything around you that dying near you is a bad idea. We had 200,000 years to figure out the second option. She picked up her tablet again. The Krav didn't leave because I frightened it, she added, almost to herself. It left because something in its brain said this one has already won fights I don't know about. It didn't want to be the next one. She left before dawn, as promised. Kale tracked her route from the ridge as long as he could, which wasn't long. She moved through the pre-dawn gray with the unhurried efficiency he'd watched all night, no faster than necessary, no slower than safe. When a ridge wraith's silhouette crossed the sky above her, she didn't break stride. The wraith circled once. Twice. Then it banked away toward easier territory. Dara appeared at Kale's shoulder. They stood together watching the place where the human had disappeared into the landscape, swallowed by the wastes as cleanly as if she'd always been part of them. She wasn't afraid, Dara said. Not once. All night. No. Not of the Krav. Not of us. No. Dara was quiet for a moment. Should that concern us? Kale thought about it carefully. About the way Mara Ellison had scanned his camp like a room she might stay in. About the way the predators of the wastes, creatures that had no fear instinct, that killed by reflex and fed by opportunity, had looked at one unarmored human and quietly decided against it. He thought about what it meant that humanity had been on this planet for less than 200 years and already the wastes had a name for them in its oldest signal language. Not invaders. Not colonists. Competitors. No, he said finally. It shouldn't concern us. Dara looked at him. It should inform us, he said. There's a difference. He turned back toward camp, where 18 pack members were breaking morning fast and pretending they hadn't all slept lighter than usual, keeping one ear tuned to the soft footsteps of a human ranger who had walked through their perimeter and their assumptions with equal ease. Mara Ellison was already 3 kilometers east, alone in the open wastes, moving through a world of predators who all read the same signal from her. Not prey. Never prey. Leave this one. She's already won. Somewhere in the archives of Human Ranger Command, filed under standard mission logs, was a single-line entry for that evening. Crossed Yelhuri Eastern Sector. Encountered Vera Pack. No engagement. Resupplied. Continued route. No incidents. No incidents. That was what 200,000 years of survival looked like, written down.